Torres is chairman of the California Democratic Party. He told his fellow Democrats, quote, "Remember, 187 is the last gasp of white America in California." End of quote. Yes, that's what a leader of the party which is in power in Washington now told his cheering Mexican followers in California. Underneath this Mexican nationalism is genuine racial hatred and racial resentment. The mestizo compensates for his deeply felt racial inferiority by raping a blonde gringa and forcing her to submit to every indignity he can inflict on her, or by beating and robbing a gringo. Actually, the rape of gringas has been a mestizo sport in the Mexican border towns for a number of years. Groups of college girls go into these border towns as tourists, naively believing that they can walk into a bar and drink with as much impunity as they can in a white bar in the United States. The common practice is for the bartender to slip a Mickey into a girl's drink, and then when she becomes confused and disoriented, a group of mestizos will escort her into a back room and gang rape her. The favorite Mickey used today is a powerful sedative with the trade name Rohypnol. Illegal in the United States, Rohypnol is readily available across the border. Complaining to the Mexican police after one of these drug-assisted rapes is fruitless, as hundreds of white college girls and their parents have discovered. The revanchist sentiment of Mexicans is so strong that Mexican officials routinely refuse to punish Mexican criminals for offenses against white Americans in Mexico, or to extradite Mexican criminals who are sought for crimes committed in the United States. A Mexican can rape, rob, or murder a white American, flee across the border, and not worry about being extradited. Even Mexican officials of essentially pure Spanish blood dare not openly oppose the widespread prejudice against gringos. Among mestizos, both in Mexico and in the United States, criminals who prey on gringos or flout gringo laws are viewed as Latin Robin Hoods. Mexican drug lords in particular are glorified by the mestizos, and one of the most popular types of music among young mestizos in California and Texas today is the narco corrido, a folk song in ballad form about the exploits of one or another drug boss. So, why do white college students flock to Mexico for their spring breaks? Mostly, it's because they are kept completely in the dark about the danger until something happens to them personally. In the most expensive resort hotels, of course, they are relatively safe, as long as they stay in the hotels or on the beach immediately adjacent to the hotels. That's because there's big money involved in the tourist business, and the wealthy owners of the luxury hotels make it worth the while of the local police to maintain a reasonably safe environment for their patrons. For college kids who buy bargain excursion packages from travel agencies and are booked into second-class hotels, as was the case of the 10 students from Salisbury State University, it's a different story. And for the white kids who believe that they can hitchhike around Mexico with a backpack or hang out in Mexican bars, it's pure suicide. The biggest reason for this ignorance of the danger is that the controlled media are very reluctant to report crimes by mestizos against whites. And I'm talking about the controlled media in the United States. The politically correct view of the media people is that in any conflict between a white and a non-white, the white must be the aggressor, the bad guy, the hate criminal, and the non-white must be the inoffensive victim. To report an interracial crime which doesn't fit this view is tantamount to racism. If one seeks information about the dangers for American tourists in Mexico from the U.S. State Department, one must look for it in the travel advisory information made available to diplomats and embassy personnel. In this travel advisory information, the State Department warns that it is very dangerous to use taxicabs in Mexico except when special precautions are exercised, that it's very dangerous to travel by bus through certain provinces, and so on. But this information is not published for the benefit of tourists or the general public. Not only would it be racist to publicize it, but it might discourage American tourists from going to Mexico and thereby hurt NAFTA and the Clinton government's program of promoting free trade with Mexico. One thing which encourages a tax on American tourists and vacationing college kids is their all too obvious vulnerability. They head for Mexico chock full of notions about democracy, equality, and interracial brotherhood, and they expect the little brown people of Mexico to be full of similar nonsense. Mexicans view white Americans as weak, foolish, and easy prey. Any respect for whites that Cortez taught them has long since been dissipated by their experience with more recent and much softer generations of gringos. Whereas Cortez and his 500 Spanish soldiers cheerfully took on an army of Mexican Indians more than 100 times their size and sent them running for their lives, the average American male today cannot protect either himself or his woman in a one-on-one physical confrontation with a Mexican, and the Mexicans seldom give him such favorable odds. An optimist might think that the misfortunes which befall many vacationing white college students in Mexico will be good educational experiences for them. Being raped, beaten up, or robbed by grinning mestizos who obviously hate their guts will cause the brainwashed students to re-examine the foolishness about racial equality which has been pumped into their heads by politically correct professors and textbooks. Seeing at first hand the corruption of the Mexican bureaucracy will make them question the wisdom of rushing headlong into Mr. Clinton's glorious New World Order, in which the United States will surrender its sovereignty and submit itself to the will of a non-white world majority not too different in character from that of the mestizo majority in Mexico. An optimist might think that. And if the media in this country would widely publicize these misfortunes so that the lucky students could learn from the experiences of the unlucky ones, perhaps some good would come of it. But of course, the media are in the hands of people who hate our people as much as the mestizos do. And so every rape of a blonde gringa on a tourist bus, and every robbery and beating of a spring-breaking gringo who can't afford the luxury hotels in Cancun will continue to be just another individual tragedy for one of our people, until we get our act together and straighten the whole mess out Cortez style. Thanks for being with me again today.